Everyone knows the rockets, the landings, the launches, the fire, and the applause. But you can tell the entire story of SpaceX a different way. In paperwork, a rescue contract, a lawsuit against its biggest customer, a landing permit nobody had ever written before. This is the legal biography of a rocket company, told by a lawyer who finds it thrilling. Start in 2008. SpaceX has 3 failed launches, 1 success, and by its own telling, weeks of cash left. What saves it isn't an engine. It's a contract. NASA signs a $1.6 billion deal for cargo deliveries. The deal was one of the first of its kind. NASA buying deliveries like freight from a company that hadn't yet reached the station. Critics called it a gamble with public money. It turned out to be one of the great procurement bargains of the era. A purchase order becomes a life raft. Remember that pattern, it repeats. And the cargo capsule that contract paid for became the ancestor of the spacecraft that now carries astronauts. Fast forward to 2014. SpaceX is flying, proving itself, and locked out of the biggest market in the sky. The Air Force had just committed dozens of military launches to a single company, its longtime supplier, without competition. 1 buyer, 1 seller, billions of dollars, 0 bids. A closed club. The arrangement even had a defensive logic, assured access to space, 1 trusted operator. Competition was treated as the risk, not the feature. So SpaceX did something almost unthinkable. It sued the Pentagon, its own future customer, in federal court. The complaint landed in the Court of Federal Claims, the special venue where companies fight the government about money. The argument was simple competition law. Open the bids, let us compete, we're cheaper. Suing the government you want money from is a high-wire act. Legal teams usually talk clients out of it. 9 months later, the case settled. The Air Force agreed to open more launches to competition and finish certifying Falcon 9. Within 2 years, SpaceX won its first national security launch. The closed club had a new member through the courtroom door. Settlements are quieter than verdicts, and often bigger. No precedent got written. The market moved anyway. The lesson stuck. In space, market access is a legal product. Engines just deliver it. Rivals learned it too. Challenging launch contract awards has since become practically a sport in Washington. Losing bidders now protest, appeal, and occasionally win delays. The courtroom became part of the launch schedule. Now, the quieter machine underneath all of it. Licenses. The system dates to the 1980s, when Congress first decided private rockets should be legal at all, and put one office in charge. Before that law, a private launch sat in a gap between agencies, arguably needing State Department sign-off as, effectively, an export. Every commercial launch in America needs a federal license, flight paths, blast zones, insurance minimums, all reviewed in advance. SpaceX has held one for every flight you've ever watched. Hundreds of them. The licenses even shape the calendar. Windows, road closures, marine notices. A launch is a temporary rearrangement of public space, and it collects legal firsts like trophies. In 2010, its Dragon capsule needed the first commercial re-entry license ever issued. Before Dragon, no private spacecraft had ever been licensed to come back from orbit. Re-entry is legally distinct from launch. Different risks, different rules. The paperwork treats falling as its own regulated activity. Then came December 2015, the night a booster flew backwards to Cape Canaveral and landed on its legs. Historic engineering. Also, quietly, historic paperwork. Regulators had to approve a rocket aiming itself at American soil. Trajectory, safety corridors, abort logic. Imagined by lawyers and engineers together, because no form existed for a rocket returning. Drone ship landings added a wrinkle of their own. The barge floats in international waters, but the license follows the operator, not the map. And when rockets fail, and they do, the legal system has a surprise for you. The company itself leads the investigation under government oversight. No sign-off, no return to flight. It sounds cozy, but the incentives bite. Every grounded week burns money, and falsifying findings would be catastrophic, legally and commercially. As launch cadence exploded, the rules had to industrialize too. One license now covers a vehicle flying again and again. The 2020s rewrite made the rules performance-based. Meet the safety math, and the license scales with you. Regulation stopped being an event. It became an assembly line. Then SpaceX pointed its lawyers at the sky itself. Starlink needed permission to fly thousands of satellites, more than every previous operator combined had ever asked for. For scale, when it was proposed, fewer than 2,000 active satellites orbited Earth. One company asked to triple the number. The radio spectrum they use is coordinated globally, then licensed nationally. 2 layers of bureaucracy per satellite. Regulators said yes. with conditions, deorbit plans, interference limits, progress deadlines, miss the deployment deadlines, and the rights shrink. Spectrum is use it or lose it real estate. Half the constellation had to fly within 6 years, a construction deadline written into the sky. In May 2019, the first 60 satellites went up in one stack. Then the night sky answered back. A train of bright lights crossed the stars, and astronomers worldwide realized something. No law regulates how bright a satellite can be. Spectrum, debris, safety, all licensed. Brightness. A genuine legal vacuum, still open today. SpaceX responded with voluntary fixes, darker coatings, sun visors, which is what you do when no rule compels you. There's now a hotline of sorts between the company and observatories. Coordination by courtesy, not command. Meanwhile, competitors fought Starlink the modern way, not with rockets, but with regulatory filings and appeals, challenging its approvals. One rival took the approvals all the way to a federal appeals court, arguing the environmental review was skipped. The court said no. So far, the approvals have held. The constellation grew while the briefs flew. Notice the shape of modern space competition. The battlefield is the docket, not the launch pad. Space law here looks less like grand treaties and more like telecom law with better scenery. Which brings us to the strangest legal document SpaceX ever wrote. Buried in the Starlink terms of service, the thing nobody reads, is a clause about Mars. It declares Mars a free planet, beyond the authority of any Earth government. SpaceX has never tried to enforce it, and no court has ever touched it. It just sits there, dormant, a flag planted in fine print. Disputes there, it says, would be settled by self-governing settlers. A constitution smuggled into a user agreement. Is it enforceable? Almost certainly not. And the reason is the backbone of this whole story. The Outer Space Treaty makes countries responsible for their companies everywhere in space, with authorization and continuing supervision. An American company on Mars is still an American company. Its licenses follow it across the solar system. The registry follows too. A Martian habitat launched from Texas stays on America's books, like a ship that never changes flag. If settlers ever do write their own rules, the fight won't start on Mars. It will start in filings on Earth. You cannot contract your way out of a treaty, not even with a clause this stylish. But as a signal of intent, the first draft of a Martian legal argument, it's remarkable. Someone is already negotiating. Step back, and the pattern is everywhere in this company's history. Saved by a contract, admitted to the market by a lawsuit, made reusable by a permit, expanded by licenses, dreaming in fine print. It's also a preview. The companies now racing to the moon are running the same legal playbook, clause by clause. The engines are magnificent. But engines exist because the paperwork let them fly. Every rocket company is also a law firm with a very loud product. So watch the next launch with one eye on the sky and one on the docket. Somewhere right now, an associate is redlining the next mission. If you want the loud part and the fine print, follow Space Docket.